Manned by Lieutenant Russ Norman today, a different pilot to yesterday. Yesterday's co-pilot Dan Padbury. He's off to Afghanistan in only 3 weeks' time. It shows the operational demands on the aircraft and the crews.
Indeed, I think Dan's probably the only person who's welcome of the Fairford weather today, because he'll be going off to spend the next several weeks in the extremely hot and sandy conditions in Afghanistan.
This machine, as we said, is a ZA670 Chinook HC2.
Just completed their straight run in to a classic Morgan turn in the Chinook. 270-degree turn now, back into the first of their quick stop, and then a bow to the crowd.
Yeah, the Morgan turn named after Dave Morgan, the former Chinook display pilot. Just look at that, reefing it round there. Dave Morgan brought the Chinook back onto the airshow circuit 5 years ago, and since then it's been a fabulous performer.
One of those displays that always gets talked about. Now that becomes overly familiar, the Chinook display. Always great to see such a large machine really flung around.
They obviously didn't like our display datum there, so they've amended the classic 3 fluorescent markers to just being 2 now, no problems.
This is a spiral climb.
Yes, it's known as the Gorny, after Gorny Vakuf, from where Chinooks operated regularly during their involvement in multinational operations in the Balkans, and this was a departure that they would have performed from that particular location.
Now to the offset wing over, speed here around 140 knots. And we hear the blade slap as the big rotors on the Chinook slap through the moist Fairford air.
Downwind, leading off the energy to come in for a running landing. And a good opportunity to get position, starts to slow, running landing onto crowd centre, and they'll continue to keep the nose of the aircraft up, whilst they then run into or reverse into a backwards takeoff. Obviously no wing mirrors on the Chinook, so the crewman will be looking out of the rear ramp and communicating with both the captain and co-pilot, telling them vital information so that the aircraft can maintain safe flying parameters and manoeuvring on the ground. An essential attribute of a multi-man crew like this is great crew collaboration, and you'll see that throughout the day when some of the larger aircraft display, aircraft that would not normally be thrown around the skies as violently as you'll see today, but a lot of it is down to the enormous crew cooperation and professionalism of the guys on board.
The Chinook is known as the Waka because of that familiar sound it makes. Operated by 3 Royal Air Force squadrons, 7, 18 and 27, all at RAF Odium in Hampshire. At the moment the Royal Air Force has 40 Chinooks on force, 34 of these HC2s and 6 HC2As, which has a strengthened nose which could be used to support in future air-to-air refuelling.
Also finally destined to come into service soon are the Chinook HC3s, which have now started to be modified at Oscar Down. The first of them recommenced flight testing only a few weeks ago.
Can you hear that slapping of the blades through the air?
Back onto the display line for a stomach-churning roller coaster of a ride. Punching over, going to 0G, almost into free-fall now as they power down through display centre, and then another roller coaster at the other end of the runway.
It's a fairly old design. It first flew with the US Army 47 years ago. Entered Royal Air Force service in 1980. This HC2 model replaced the earlier Mark I around 16 years ago.
And it remains in production. The current production model with Boeing is the CH-47F. That's got new Honeywell engines, a much increased payload and a digital cockpit. The US Army is taking 239 of those to supersede its earlier CH-47 models, and the Royal Netherlands Air Force will have 6.
Just positioning to the northwest, completing an offset wing over to run back in for another quick stop in front of the crowd.
Another of those aerial handbrake turns coming here.
Quite literally turning on a sixpence.
Powered by two Textron-like combing turbosharks, each giving over 3,000 horsepower. Empty, it weighs just over 10 tons and it can carry more than its own weight, either internally or underslung the fuselage.
Facing away from the crowd now and transitioning as it moves sideways along. If you look out of the to the ramp on the Chinook, you'll see the crewman, Vince, waving with his big red hand. He's not had a nasty accident. It's just something he's got there that he uses to attract your attention. So wave to the crewman in the back there.
The Royal Air Force fleet of 48 is the largest of any operator outside the United States. As we say, these aircraft are massively in demand.
What I'd like to put there is the well done using a pedal turn, so a flat turn just done purely on the rudders.
One of the Royal Air Force machines, Bravo November ZA718, is in action in every major operation the Royal Air Force has deployed to since the type entered service, and 3 pilots have won the DFC while flying her on operations in the Falklands, Iraq and Afghanistan.
Into another fairground manoeuvre. They've had the roller coaster and then now doing their seesaw. Imagine the aircraft describing the path to the seat of a seesaw would now run onto as they transition down into the rest of the seesaw.
It's almost 100 feet long, the Chinook. It is a large machine. Not the first twin rotor to be operated by the Royal Air Force. They had the Bristol Belvedere, which was retired in 1969.
Last one of his big wingovers as he now positions in, potentially for a run-in and break, but obviously with the weather conditions as they are, he'll just be keen to complete the display as safely as possible.
Carries a crew of 4 in operations. A crew of 3 today, only essential air crew required for air display flying. Russ Norman, the man at the controls today. Dave Dayton flew the aircraft yesterday. Now the Chinook display complete. Another impressive piece of flying at RIAT 09. Next we should see another fast jet. It's going to be the F-18 of the Spanish Air Force, another aircraft which has impressed us all week with his flat and full routines. I guess looking at the weather now, maybe his flat display, which on Friday by the way was